We usually spend our time on this show looking at the flashy stuff. You know, the massive 8K video walls, the crystal clear audio, the kind of gear that just makes you stop and stare.
Hmm.
But today we're looking at, well, a plain metal box, something that sits quietly in a rack, completely invisible to the audience.
And yet, if that plain metal box decides to quit, all those flashy screens go dark
Wow.
instantly.
Exactly. So we're doing a deep dive into the Kramer MA3-PS. On the surface, it's just some...
When you have a grid that complex, a 160 by 160 matrix, your power requirements aren't just about voltage. They're about absolute stability.
So that really sets the stakes. If that Wolfpack matrix goes down, you have a very expensive and a very quiet room.
You do.
Which brings us to the core feature of the MA3-PS, redundant matrix powering.
Precisely. In a setup that large, you just cannot have a single point of failure. This unit runs in parallel with the primary power. It's just sitting there, monitoring everything, ready to take over seamlessly.
If the mainline trips
Or a capacitor blows in the primary unit. Anything. It just takes over.
And the sources really emphasize that it's hot swappable. Now, that's a term we hear a lot with servers, right? But implementing it in a live video matrix, that seems a bit trickier.
Oh, it's much trickier. You can't have any voltage sag during that switchover. Not even for a millisecond.
Because the video sync drops.
The sync drops, the screens flash black or blue, and you've broken the illusion for everyone watching. This unit is engineered so that you can swap it out without the backplane ever seeing a dip in power.
So, ideally, the audience never even knows it happened.
The matrix itself doesn't even know it happened.
Okay, so it preserves signal integrity. But, you know, I was looking at the spec sheet, and one number jumped out at me, and maybe not in a good way. It lists the operating temperature up to 35 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, I noticed that too. That's about 95 Fahrenheit.
That seems a little tight. I mean, 95 degrees isn't that hot for a crowded equipment rack. Some industrial gear is rated way higher.
It is a valid concern. 35C is a pretty low thermal ceiling for a power unit, which, generates its own heat. It tells me that while this is heavy duty, you can't just shove it in an unventilated closet.
It needs a well-managed environment.
It absolutely relies on proper rack spacing and active cooling. You have to respect that thermal limit.
Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, the price. HDTV Supply lists this at a discounted price of $1,976. The MSRP is nearly $2,500.
It's a steep number.
I mean, for $2,000, I could build a really high-end workstation PC. Why does a redundant power supply cost as much as a used car?
Well, you're paying for a few things. You're paying for the reliability, the mean time between failures.
Okay.
But mostly, you're paying for the insurance. If you're running a sports book or a network operations center, the cost of going dark for even 60 minutes, it just dwarfs that $2,000 price tag.
So you're not paying for the watts, you're paying for the continuity.
You are paying for continuity. It's professional-grade anxiety reduction.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of anxiety reduction, the reviews pivoted to something I found really interesting. We usually focus on the hardware specs, but the standout feedback wasn't about the metal at all.
Oh, you mean the review from Nabit in Mexico?
Yeah, that's the one. They bought this for a setup in Mexico, but they didn't rave about hot swapping. They specifically praised Rachel Christian, the vice president of operations at HDTV Supply.
It's such a great reminder, isn't it?
Yeah.
Talk about hardware redundancy, having a backup power supply. But there's also support redundancy.
Support redundancy, I like that.
Exactly. When you're doing a complex install in another country and something isn't working, you need a human backup system. You need to know that someone like Rachel is going to pick up the phone.
That's a great way to put it. The hardware keeps the lights on, but the support team keeps the installers sane.
And in the world of high-end AV, that relationship is often what you're really buying. The box is just the vehicle for the solution.
So if we look at the big picture here, the Kramer MA3-PS is a very specialized tool. It's not cheap, it needs a cool room to live in, but for a huge Wolfpack system, it's the safety net.
It's the peace of mind that allows the show to go on no matter what.
Well, I'll leave you with this thought. We're all obsessed with resolution 4K, 8K, brighter pixels. But next time you see a massive digital wall working perfectly, just ask yourself, how much engineering and money went into the invisible boxes that simply keep it from turning off?
It's usually the unsexy parts that do all the heavy lifting.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.